What if Merope never released Tom Riddle Sr.? Spoilers, Harry may never have been born. Hey, brother! Guys, we all know Voldemort has a pretty tragic beginning, what with both of his parents abandoning him.
It all began on the day of my actual birth. Both of my parents failed to show up.
In Half-Blood, we learn that Voldemort was conceived by his parents after his mother, Merope Gaunt, put his father, Tom Riddle, under a love potion. Then, upon releasing Tom from the potion, he abandons Merope and his unborn son, and then, upon giving birth to little Voldy, Merope goes ahead and dies rather than, raise her son. I mean, it's obviously very tragic, but factual. It's a bad beginning to a horrible story, which is probably why the story actually begins way later with baby Harry instead, and the death of his parents. But what if Merope never released Tom Sr. from the effects of the love potion? What if they raised little Voldy together and he had a normal childhood? Would he have still turned evil? Would that nurturing outpace his nature and absolve him of his malicious ways, or was he always destined for darkness? Could his father have grown to love him, or perhaps more importantly, could his mother? Might all have been saved? Today, we find out. Okay, so did Merope Gaunt doom the entire Wizarding world by dying rather than raising her own son? And if she had kept Tom Riddle Sr. under the effects of the love potion, would Voldemort have had a more normal childhood? Ugh. And by normal, I mean like normal enough to prevent him becoming just the darkest person on Earth. Yeah. Well, let's take it piece by piece because there is a lot to unpack here. The short answer is no. I don't think there is a whole lot that could have been done to not make Voldemort a ruthless killing megalomaniac, and much of it comes down to one core principle. And that principle is this: Voldemort is the opposite of Harry. And yes, I know that at the point in time when Voldemort was born, Harry would have not existed yet and therefore doesn't really play any role here, and yet he still kind of does. Both are half-blood orphans raised away from the Wizarding world by muggles under less than ideal circumstances. Voldemort at the orphanage and Harry by the Dursleys. And yet, despite the similar backgrounds and starts, their trajectories are polar opposites. Voldemort is in Slytherin while Harry is in Gryffindor. Voldemort has red eyes while Harry has green. Voldemort kills where Harry disarms. Voldemort can't accept death, and Harry is master of death.
It's mine.
But most importantly, Voldemort cannot love. Harry can. Big deal. And these differences are extremely on purpose and go all the way back to each of their own mothers, which is perhaps where everything goes right or wrong for each of them. Lily is perhaps the other most pure character in the story besides Harry, and therefore we can assume the exact opposite of Merope. And it's not hard to point to the similarities in their differences. Lily and James are genuinely in love. Merope and Tom Riddle are not. Lily is able to forgive James for his past arrogance and see the real James underneath. Merope never recognizes the real Tom and instead remains infatuated with him despite his continued snobby elitism toward her and her family. Lily would do anything, including die for her son. Merope would do nothing, including live for hers. That is the literary symbolism that is at play here. So, because Merope is intended to be an exact foil of Lily, we can safely assume that as long as her relationship with Tom Riddle Sr. is a charade, then so is any affection she may have given to her son. It would always be all fake. It's honestly very WandaVision, it's like forcing the happy family sitcom ending, even though everyone knows this is like a real tragedy under the surface. You know what I mean? How great was WandaVision, right? Right there until the end. Couldn't quite couldn't stick the landing, you know? But so then let's ask this. Even if Merope had kept Tom Riddle Sr. enchanted, could Merope have ever grown to love her son, like over time, after she spent time with him, you know? Well, probably not. Because remember this, she only ever even has Voldemort because she thinks having a baby will make Tom want to stay with her even without the love potion being active anymore. But she's wrong. And then when it doesn't work, she has no interest in keeping or raising the baby at all. Like she would literally rather die, which she does. And yes, I know you're sitting there saying like, wait, did she choose death? Wasn't she just so weak that she died in childbirth? Yeah, I'd love to give her that out, but I just don't think it's true. I mean, it is heavily hinted at by Harry, Dumbledore, and even Voldemort that she could have lived. Young Tom says, "My mother can't have been magic, or she wouldn't have died," said Riddle, more to himself than Dumbledore. And then we have Harry raise the question to Dumbledore. "In any case, as you're about to see, Merope refused to raise her wand, even to save her own life. She wouldn't even stay alive for her son, but she had a choice, didn't she? Not like my mother." "Your mother had a choice too," said Dumbledore gently. "Yes, Merope Riddle chose death in spite of a son who needed her." See what I mean? Possible, but refused. Chooses death, but not in like the, heroic sacrificial way Lily does it, more in like the cowardly abandoning her child way. Although perhaps, as Dumbledore says, maybe we shouldn't judge her too harshly because she certainly did not have an easy go with things. All of that is to say that even if she kept Tom under the potion, I don't think she ever even would have grown to love her child over time. And that may sound like a step too far. Like certainly if she'd given it a go, she would have come around, right? Well, I doubt it. Because here's the other thing, is that Merope didn't grow up in a house with love. She was never shown how to do it. The only love she put out into the world was artificially generated by a potion.
I'm in love with her. All right, fine, you're in love with her. Have you ever actually met her?
Based on an infatuation with a man she had a baby she didn't even want for. And yes, I hear you, just because you didn't grow up in a loving household doesn't mean you can't love. I mean, look at Harry.
Any funny business? Any at all?
Yes, let's look at Harry and what he has to say on the subject. "I know," said Harry impatiently. "I can love." It was only with difficulty that he stopped himself by adding, "Big deal." "Yes, Harry, you can love," said Dumbledore, who looked as though he knew perfectly well what Harry had just refrained from saying, "which, given everything that has happened to you, is a great and remarkable thing. You're still too young to understand how unusual you are, Harry." Do you see what I'm getting at? This is the difference between Harry and Voldemort. Ability to love. Like to you and me and Harry, it probably doesn't seem like it's a big deal. And yet, it is. In that scene, Dumbledore is impressed that Harry is capable of such a thing despite all of his hardships because he knows that's not always how it turns out. He knows the sad stories of the Merope Gaunts of the world. She's just been through too much suffering and hardship under the roof of Marvolo and her brother Morphin. But if you still doubt it, ask yourself this, like if young Voldemort was 5 or 10 or 15 and Merope finally then lifted the potion, what do you think would have happened? I mean, certainly Tom Riddle Sr. would still leave. He'd have still been kidnapped and abused and forced for however many years. He'd likely not even know who his son was and certainly wouldn't have any kind of, real relationship with him. And if he left, do you think Merope would have had any concern for her son then? No. It would be as Dumbledore says. "I am guessing again, but I am sure I am right, that when her husband abandoned her, Merope stopped using magic. I do not think that she wanted to be a witch any longer. Of course, it is also possible that her unrequited love and the attendant despair sapped her of her powers. That can happen. It's like I said before, if the relationship is a sham, so is her affection. Simple as that. Which really feels like something Merope could have worked through with today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Because let's face it, if there's one person in the wizarding world who really could have used some support, it's Merope. I mean, stuck in a toxic home, isolated, desperate for love. She didn't have anyone to help her sort through all that pain. And without that support, she made choices that doomed not only her life, but pretty much the entire wizarding world. Now, obviously not all of us are about to, give birth to the Dark Lord, but it does show how hard it can be to make good decisions when you're overwhelmed. And these days, I feel that way a lot. It feels like there's just too much advice flying around about wellness. There's cold plunges and gratitude journals and digital detoxes and love potions, but how do you know what's actually right for you? Spoilers, it's not the love potions. That is where BetterHelp can help, because with over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 5 million people served, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Live sessions average 4.9 out of 5 stars across 1.7 million reviews. Like, that is a crazy high average. And therapy isn't just for people in crisis. I mean, it can teach you positive coping skills, help you set boundaries, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. I mean, I can tell you that me and Ben are both in therapy. It's just good maintenance. You don't know, maybe I'm in crisis too. But with BetterHelp, you can connect to a therapist right from home and even switch anytime. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our viewers get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/super. That's betterhelp.com/super. I've got a link for you in the description down below. And now let's find out what happens if Voldemort actually had 2 parents growing up. Because even if Merope couldn't give him love, maybe at least having 2 parents under one roof would change the story some, right? Like what if she just never lifts the potion at all and is content with the, perpetual enslavement of her husband? Could Tom, just having 2 parents, even people who are in a loveless artificial relationship, change him some? Well, I mean, for sure, things would change, but I'm not sure for the better. At the very least, Tom wouldn't need to go about hunting down all the information about his lineage. He just know it right away that he was a Gaunt and a descendant of Slytherin. It's basically all they talk about. And yet, we know he is still obsessed with his lineage and might not be too impressed with his current living magical relatives, Marvolo, Morphin. Not great examples, Fortunately for him, we know they are aware of another line of wizards they are descended from. See this? Know what it is? Know where it came from? Centuries it's been in our family. That's how far back we go, pure blood all the way. Know how much I've been offered for this with the Peveril coat of arms engraved on the stone? That was pretty good, Marvel, if you ask me. But can you imagine a young Tom Riddle, dissatisfied with his Gaunt relatives, begins looking into the Peverils and then realizes the truth about what the ring is, which he would still have. The locket, on the other hand, Merope would have still sold. But the ring! Dumbledore says Voldemort wouldn't have been interested in the Hallows because he'd have had to rely on them. But imagine he learns of them before he even knows about Horcruxes, Master of Death, that's what he wants. It was the very thing that tempted the darkest wizard before him, Grindelwald. And we know Voldemort loves collecting rare wizarding artifacts. Now, granted, he might not take the whole story very seriously because, the ring brings back loved ones, and as we've established, he's incapable of such things, but he may still consider collecting the Hallows something of a birthright, since an heirloom does exist in his family, and let's face it, the wand is probably what he really is gonna want. But here's where things get crazy, because I suspect it would not take him very long to, sniff out Ignotus and trace his family line down to the still living Potters. It's like they're connected by some sort of destiny or something. Now, Voldemort as a teenager or a young man never crossed any of the Potters at school, but usually he starts being active with his dark activities around the age of 15. That's when he gets the ring, usually for the first time, and when he kills his uncle and his dad and grandparents and all that. But for him, that's 1941. James isn't born until 1960, meaning the current owner of the invisibility cloak when Voldemort is 15 would have been Harry's grandfather, Fleamont Potter. And not gonna lie, that's bad news for Fleamont, because he is super duper going down, and young Tom Riddle is definitely gonna be stealing the invisibility cloak. No!
My body's gone.
And besides that, the absolute irony of it all, the inventor of Sleek Easy's hair potion, slain by the Dark Lord Voldemort? Did Fleamont have a great nose too, right? Now, the only good news out of all this, sort of, is that even if he tracked down the Elder Wand, it would already be with Dumbledore, so I'd say it's still pretty darn safe. But if you did do some quick math there, you may have also realized that in this scenario, Voldemort totally just John Connored Harry Potter out of existence by virtue of killing his grandfather. That was a Terminator reference for all the Gen Zs out there.
I'll be back.
But so then what? Voldemort wins? Well, I mean, doubtful. The prophecy is still going to prophecy, and assuming everything else goes like it would, which, just for simplicity's sake, let's just assume it does, there is another chosen one candidate, Neville.
Why is it always me?
Because Harry never existed, dude. Get over it. I mean, come on, you got work to do. Jeez. Down from there, man. Which brings us back to Merope, because even if she never lifted the spell at all, eventually her son is gonna grow up and catch on to what is really happening. And when he does, you have to assume he lifts the spell himself. And when he does that, well, it's the same story. His father abandons him right away, except now young Voldemort is left wondering what in his life was ever real. I mean, certainly not the love of his parents for him or for each other. I think he starts wondering, why does he even exist? Should he even exist? Of course, yes, he's the most special of all, brought into this world as a lie to suffer. And so now everyone else must suffer too, starting with his parents. Got a little Mewtwo there, didn't he?
Those voices,
I hope we don't lose this one.
they're outside,
We can't lose this one.
where I must be.
Yeah, but I think no doubt in that situation, he kills both of his parents and then continues on to his regularly scheduled life of mayhem and destruction. So, ultimately, did Merope doom the world by releasing Tom Riddle Sr.? No. She doomed it because she never learned how to love, and that's what sets Voldemort apart from Harry. And honestly, I think the only real shot Voldemort ever had at all, ever, was if somehow Merope managed to, genuinely win the affections of Tom Riddle Sr. by, more conventional methods. Not great odds. But I do want to give a shout out to one of our patrons over on Through the Gryffindor, Thomas K, who sent in this what if to us. And me and Ben actually had a really fun time doing this one because our vacation schedules were not aligned. So I was out last week, Ben's out this week. And so to do this Owlery, we both answered this individually. So we had to just sort of work through it on our own. If you want to see how our minds work differently attacking the same problem, both those videos should be live over on the Owlery when this week's episode goes up. So I think it was really fun, just hearing us both tackle the same problem, and then we sort of cross-reference ideas for this video. But I thought it was fun. If you want to go check it out, you just have to be a patron for the Through the Gryffindor. But guys, thanks as always for watching today's video. Don't forget to leave a like on it if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to see why maybe it didn't really matter at all what his parents did, was Voldemort just born evil? Hint, yeah, I think he was. So even if Merope loved him, I don't think it would have mattered. You can check out this video here for that full explanation. But otherwise, until next time, Ben, I will see you in another life, brother.